There is a lot to talk about. The plan for today's video is to cover two different subjects. What my thoughts are on the DC Mattel news that came out last week, and of course the new DC Multiverse figure reveals from Toy Fair this year. So let's go in that order, starting with the DC Mattel news. And I decided to put this all together into one video because I didn't want to make it into two separate videos. So, and the timing of the news dropping with Toy Fair was just, right around the corner, and it was just, perfect timing, I guess. So, all right, let's get into this first subject. So, being someone that started collecting DC Multiverse under McFarlane Toys, this news is sad to me in one way because I have to restart my DC collection, right? That's the thing about having a license change is the fact that you have to deal with that reality, right? Like in another scenario, I was hoping that McFarlane would keep the DC license for a few more years to come before, this eventual sort of ending would happen. And, back then when I started collecting DC Multiverse from McFarlane Toys, I heard news about them renewing their contracts and stuff with Warner Bros. And I always knew that there was a possibility one day where maybe that contract won't get renewed, things could change. This was something that was bound to happen sooner or later. I just didn't expect it to happen, so soon, right? 5 years is not a lot of time, right? 5 years is pretty short in some instance. And Mattel had the DC license back then for, I would like to say, close to 20 years. I think it was like 2003 to 2019. Yeah, 20 plus years right there. So it is interesting to see that they are getting the license back this time around. However, I hope that this time around, and look, I want to be optimistic because, I don't want to stop collecting DC action figures, right? Like, I love DC characters. So my approach to this news is that it is sad for the reason that now there's a reality where I have to start collecting a whole new set of figures from a different company, right? And that's not fun for some people because, we like to keep our shelves uniformed. We like to keep our figures from the same company, right? So if a company is the one that's producing them for the longest time, you want to keep it with that same company. You don't want them to change. You don't want it to go to anyone else. And I know some people don't like McFarlane's DC figures, and I understand that. We all have our opinion on what toy lines we like. And for me, I like the DC Multiverse line from McFarlane. But going forward here, I'm open-minded and optimistic because I do collect Mattel's Masterverse line. And because I love the way that they make the He-Man figures in the Masterverse line and just all the other characters that are in the He-Man universe, I think there's potential for them to do something similar with the DC license this time around. Because here's the interesting thing about this. Yes, during their last year when they had the license before they lost it to McFarlane Toys, they weren't doing so good, right? But I think in these last few years, they have learned from those mistakes, which I hope they did. Because the Masterverse line and their wrestling figures, from what other people are saying, are some of their best figures that they've put out in recent years. And I really love the Masterverse line the most because I think those figures are well made. I think they're good for what they are. And if this new iteration of DC figures can be done in the same fashion, I'm definitely going to, hop on board this line and start collecting this. Now, there are some people that are hoping that they go back to the 6-inch scale so these DC figures can scale with Marvel Legends. In my opinion, and this is my thoughts about this, I don't think they're going to go back to 6-inch scale. Maybe they will, but seeing how their Masterverse line figures are all 7-inch scale, and if you have any of those figures, you can put them next to your McFarlane DC figures, they're pretty much almost the same scale, right? Like they're 7-inch figures. And it wouldn't surprise me if they adopt that formula of how they make the Masterverse figures with this new iteration of DC figures and just keep them the same scale as the Masterverse figures. That's what I think will happen. Now, this is just my opinion. Like, again, I don't I don't know what will happen. This is just me assuming that maybe that's the possibility that they might just stick with the 7-inch scale, like what their other two lines are at right now with the way that they're making those figures. Now, if they do downsize back to 6-inch, that's not a bad thing either. Like for me, I do collect Marvel Legends from time to time, so you know. And scaling has never been a problem with me when it comes to like action figures from different lines. Like I'm not someone that really cares if my DC figures don't match with my Marvel figures. Like I never had that sort of like thought. I only care about scaling when it's within the same line. So like for example, some figures in the DC Multiverse line from McFarlane are off scale with other characters. That pisses me off. I don't like that. But when it comes to like, oh, my Marvel Legends Spider-Man figure is not the same scale as my Batman figure from McFarlane, I never generally cared if they didn't scale, the same way. Because in the end of the day, I have fun collecting this hobby, and I don't really care what size these figures are at. I mean, a good example would be like my SH Figure Arts. Those are anime figures that are always in that scale, and they're never going to scale, correctly with my Marvel Legends. So, and that's how I feel about that. Now, I know some people care about scaling between different toy lines, and you have your opinion on that, and I have my opinion on that. So, now the other scenario that I wish could happen, who knows if it will or won't, because right now all this information is not really known. We don't know what's going to happen. There's still talks going on behind the scenes from what I heard about this news. And the best scenario, I think, that would probably be the best outcome for most of us, because I've heard this been said from other people who have reacted to this news as well, and I kind of agree with them. There is a possibility, now it's not, confirmed, and this is the possibility that I wish happens, of course, in a perfect world, where Mattel could focus on making 6-inch scale DC figures for, the people that prefer the 6-inch scale, and McFarlane could continue making the 7-inch DC figures for those people like me and others who like his scale of figures. And the reason why I bring this up is because if you think about it, Marvel has this thing going on too, right? They got the Marvel Legends line, you have the Marvel Select line where those figures are 7-inch scale, they don't scale with your Marvel Legends. And I think if there was like a compromise, it would be pretty cool if that was the compromise. And I also look back to some of the older figures that were released years ago. And when DC Direct was making figures, which they were doing like a whole separate line of figures that had nothing to do with Mattel's DC figures, they were making like 6-inch scale and 7-inch scale figures, from what I can tell, and from photos I've seen of those older figures. So there is a possibility, and I'm not saying that it's going to happen, who knows, where there could be an outcome where you have two different companies making DC figures in different scales. And I think that would be the best outcome over just, everything going back to one company. But, of course, we'll have to see what happens in the future. And, yeah, this news is very interesting to me because I'm not, like, completely, up in the offense, right? Like, I know some people don't like this news at all. There are hardcore people that love DC Multiverse under McFarlane Toys, and, I get it. I get the frustration. You've been collecting this line for 5 years, me included, And it sucks that this is happening, that, we have to now start buying DC figures potentially from like a whole new company. Well, Mattel's not a new company, but like, a whole different company. And they might not scale with the DC figures that we have in our shelves, right? There's some people that care about scaling in that sense. So I understand the frustration. But at the same time, this was something that I kind of expected would happen sometime in the future. I always had this thought that, you know what, one day McFarlane might lose the DC Multiverse license for whatever reason, and it might go back to another company. It could go to Mattel, it could go to Hasbro, it could go to any other toy company that makes action figures, right? So this was something that I had a feeling would happen sooner or later. And it just sucks that it happened so soon. But I've always had this thought in the back of my mind because I was like, you just don't know. Every year is a new year. Every year things change. And this is something that, we just have to expect. And what does this mean going forward for this channel? Well, I'm still going to collect the DC Multiverse figures that are coming out this year from McFarlane, and of course the stuff that is coming out next year from McFarlane, if there is still any more figures. And if these new DC Mattel figures look really good, the initial photos for these new DC figures look spot on, like their Masterverse figures, then I just continue talking about this new line of DC figures. It doesn't change anything with what I do on this channel. I'm still going to talk about action figures that I collect. And if I'm going to start with a whole brand new DC line, that's not a bad thing. Because, look, I'm going to keep on collecting DC figures to whatever extent. And however they look, I just hope that they look good. I hope that Mattel this time around really makes some cool DC figures and also, give us more characters. And I think that's one of the things that I will be honest with, that I think that I don't like about McFarlane's DC Multiverse figures, is the fact that we have too many Batmans. And look, I know Batman sells 365 days a year. But, sometimes you can also give spotlight to other characters that are not Batman, right? We're still missing, like, quite a lot of characters in the DC universe. I mean, and that's the irony of this line, is that it's called DC Multiverse, but we're getting so many Batman figures. And look, there's nothing wrong with Batmans, okay? Like, Hasbro does this with Spider-Man and Wolverine, but the difference is Hasbro also gives us other characters too, so it's not always just Spider-Man and Wolverine. So I think with the Batmans, it's way too overboard with how McFarlane releases Batman figures. Like, it's more than necessary. Like, I'm not saying that he can't release those figures. I think there should have been a timely fashion for when those figures come out. And in between, we get other characters. So I'm hoping that when Mattel starts this new line, we do see other characters get figures. And not just always Batman. Okay? Like, I know they're going to probably release a good amount of Batman figures as well because, it's just typical. But let's hope that there's also other characters that McFarlane hasn't made, but they will make. Because they've done it before, right? With all the other DC lines that they had before. So it's not the first for them. So that's me being optimistic. And that is basically my thoughts on this news. Like, it's not anything too, for me to get angry about. Like, this is, I'm just a consumer, right? Things happen. Yeah, I'm going to feel sad one way or another. Like, I am feeling a little bit sad, of course, because this is a reality. But, as I said, I always felt that this was going to happen sooner or later. I just didn't know what other company would come and take the license. I did not expect Mattel to come back with taking the license. I honestly thought that there's a chance that some other company would have taken the license. But, it's interesting that Mattel came back and got the license. That's what surprised me the most. I was like, wow. That's something you don't see every day, So, All right, that is my thoughts on this whole news. I hope I explained my thoughts well to most of you, and you can kind of get a sense of where I am right now with how I feel about this news. And let's move on to some other news, the things that we want to talk about here today as well. And that is these new DC Multiverse reveals that were shown at Toy Fair. Now, let me credit the photos from where I got them. I got these photos from Toy News International. I'm going to have a link to the article where they posted all these photos in the description below, just to give them credit, because I don't know who took these photos, like the actual source from who took the photos. They just posted it on their site, so I'm going to credit that site. Hopefully, if someone knows who took these photos, I would like to credit them as well. I don't want to steal other people's photos and make videos with them. I feel guilty even making this video today because, but I'm just trying to react to these new reveals and just talk about them. Like, that's the whole point of this video. So, okay. Let's start with, of course, the, what do I want to start with here? Let's start with the page punchers. Oh, no, not the page puncher. Let's start from the bottom row. I want to start with this. So, we got our look at the Godzilla and Superman figure. And I have to say, I expected this set to come, but I'm kind of disappointed with the Godzilla. I knew that it was going to be something similar to Kong with the articulation, and I'm kind of bummed out. Because I was really hoping that the Godzilla would have at least decent articulation. But, seeing how the other figures were made, yeah, it makes sense. So there's that. But, hey, sculpt-wise, though, it does look really good, right? For a Godzilla. So that's pretty cool. But, I was hoping that he would have a bit more articulation so then you can kind of get him into some cool, action poses, however you pose a Godzilla. And as you can see, he does come with a tiny Superman figure, like what they did with Batman. So you can have the scaling correct here because, hey, Godzilla is bigger than a human, right? He's way bigger than Superman. So there's that. And you also have the Superman figure here with the yelling expression face. I don't know if he'll come with another head sculpt. I guess we'll have to see. But he is using that body buck that I really like. I think out of all the Superman body bucks that they've updated, this one is probably my favorite one. It has the right scale and height to me. So I'm glad that they're bringing this body buck back now more often for Superman. So there's that. He does have a Clawfire cape. And that's basically all they've shown for this figure, or for this set. So, yeah. But yeah, Godzilla. And from what it looks like, his mouth moves. Oh yeah, there's a joint on that. So, yeah, his mouth does move. I don't know if his head turns, though. Let's see. Does it turn? No, it doesn't. I don't think it turns. Yeah, again, simple articulation on this figure. Nothing surprises me because since they did it that way with the other two gorillas, makes sense that he'll be the same. So we have that. And in the next photo here, we got our look at some of the repaints that are coming out. And two of these repaints we already seen news of before, but one of them is new. There is a repaint version of the Nightfall Azrael figure in this black and gold color. I don't know what this is going to be. Is this going to be an MTS exclusive, a Big Bad Toy Store exclusive? I have no clue where this is going to go up on for pre-order in the future. But it looks pretty cool. I like the color on this one. I like the black and the gold. This actually appeals to me. This is one of those repaints that I definitely probably will buy. There's that. And then we got our look here at the Frostbite edition of Mr. Freeze from the Batman and Robin movie. It actually looks pretty good for a repaint. So there's that. And of course you got Captain Carrot in the back. But, those two are old news. We've seen images of them already. But this is the new one. And, yeah, it looks pretty cool. It's just a simple repaint. But an actual good-looking repaint, So And especially if you missed out on the Azrael figure before, you might want to pick up this one. So there's your chance if you're into this sort of color for the character's costume. All right, there's a repaint for that. And now let's talk about some. What do I want to talk about next? Platinum Chase variants. Let's start with that as well. So, as you can see in this photo, we have 3 Platinum Chases in the background right there. And 2 of them are the same figure as this Batman figure that recently came out with Bathound. It's the same body buck, everything's the same, just repainted in these wacky sorts of colors. So, of course, in the back there, behind the Noel Batman figure, you can see like a purple color costume for this body buck of Batman. So you get like a purple color Chase variant. You also have this orange color Chase variant. So, pretty simple there. Nothing too crazy. And in terms of an actual new Chase variant for DC Multiverse of a character that I've never heard of, in this next photo here from this angle, there's Nightmaster. I don't know who Nightmaster is. I've never heard of this character before. This is my first time ever hearing of this character's name. So that's pretty cool. But again, this is the one thing, and this is another thing that I don't like about DC Multiverse under McFarlane Toys, especially in the years recently, of course, are the Platinum Chases. You don't see Marvel Legends doing this, right? Like, at most they do store exclusives, but you don't see them doing Chase variants. And it is tiring to hunt for Chase variants, especially, depending on where you live, you might not have luck finding them. And let's just say you know who this character is. Okay, let's just say you know who Nightmaster is, and you want a Nightmaster figure. Making a Chase variant is not a good idea. It just makes it harder for people who know who this character is to track him down and get him in the stores. And, my opinion with Chase variants still stand. I don't like them. I don't like the fact that they're being released this way. And this leads me to another Chase variant that I really wish wasn't a Chase variant, okay? So, in a recent post, I think like a couple weeks ago or a month ago, when I made that photo with all my JSA figures from the McFarlane DC Multiverse line so far, I said that I hoped that there were 2 characters that we would get in figure form, because they did make them in the Superpowers line. The first one I mentioned was Starman. And as you can see, as we jump into the page punchers here a little bit, we're getting a Starman figure. But it's not a regular release. It is a Chase variant. And that's not fun. Okay? Like, how am I going to find this thing? I can't even find the question. And I still haven't found that Green Lantern Chase. And now I have to add this to the list, and it's probably not even going to be a possible thing for me to find. So, I'm happy that Starman is coming to the DC figure line here, and, these Page Puncher figures are basically the same thing as the DC Multiverse figures that we buy anyways. It's the same exact build style. So, this is something that I need for my JSA, and it's so stupid how it's a freaking Chase. I'm not a fan of that. Again, I don't like chasing after... Like, I love toy hunting, don't get me wrong. I love going to the store to hunt for toys. But that's only when it's something that I know I can hunt for. like a Target exclusive, because, they have the barcode numbers and the item numbers so you can find it. I know people like to share the Chase variant barcode numbers as well, but they tend to be harder to find because there's a limited quantity of them, right? So, and also, there's usually if I remember correctly, in one shipment, depending on which wave it's coming out with, it's 1 per case or something, I think, at most, right? So, yeah, the limited quantity thing makes it very hard to track down. So it kind of sucks that Starman is a platinum. Now, moving on from Starman to another character I said I was hoping they would make into the 7-inch scale because he was also a JSA member that was released in that Superpowers 3-pack, is Our Man. And here we have a photo of Our Man as a gold label. Now, I'm going to assume, I could be wrong because we don't know, I'm going to assume that this Our Man and the other figure right there next to him that's also a gold label, these are going to be Target exclusives. The reason why I think this is because, you know, for the last few rounds of gold labels that were store exclusives, there hasn't been a Walmart one in a long time. So I don't think these are going to be Walmart. I think they're going to be Target exclusives. Now, if they're not Target exclusives at most, it could possibly be an MTS exclusive, Amazon exclusive, GameStop. It could be any of these stores. I hope it's the Target exclusive so it's easier for me to track down. Because I do need the Our Man. And one thing you can tell right away from this figure is that it's reusing the Martian Manhunter Spectre body buck. Even the cape is done the same way. Which is very strange to me because, you know, they could have easily done this better where they given him like a cloth-wired cape. Don't know why they didn't do that. I guess they had enough of these body bucks still laying around. So they're just going to reuse it easily. But you know what? In the end of the day, reuse is reuse. At least we're getting an Our Man finally, like after all this time. So, you know, there's that. And of course, the other gold label next to him that is also new is Green Arrow, Connor Hawk Green Arrow. And for those of you who don't know who Connor Hawk is, he is the son of Oliver Queen. So, Green Arrow's son right here. And we're getting him in figure form, which is pretty cool. So, definitely going to be another character that I will pick up because he will probably fit with my Teen Titans Young Justice shelf that I have going on with a lot of the other figures. So definitely something that I do want to pick up in the future. And again, it is a gold label as you can see, so don't know where it's going to be exclusive to. Hopefully Target. Because, you know, I think I've said this in a few other videos. For some reason, when it comes to Target exclusives, I have an easier time finding them. But when it's Walmart, never that way. So, all right. There's the news for that. And now let's talk about some other page punchers that they've revealed as well. And let's start with this one. I don't know who this guy is. From all the photos I kept seeing, his name get cut off. So I don't know who this character is. If you know who this character is, do tell me in the comments below. I want to know who this character is. He looks pretty interesting. I don't know if he's a hero or a villain, but yeah, he's a new character for sure. We don't have this guy in figure form. And yeah, he's a page puncher. He's coming out as well. So there is that guy. And now, let's talk about some of the exciting page puncher reveals. So, of course, we have a new Supergirl figure. And I'm happy with this one. You know, I don't know why we didn't get this before. Like, we had that other version of Supergirl, and honestly, like, that one is not the greatest. They really fumbled with that Supergirl figure. But this one, they did a really good job with. Yes, she's reusing the same body buck. That's expected. But the head and the face sculpting, the hair, the wired cape, you know, the way they did her skirt down here with her leggings that she's wearing. This is a really beautiful looking Supergirl figure. I think this is probably going to be the best Supergirl figure that we'll get from McFarlane. And it's interesting, huh? That you know that the license is coming to an end in the future. That they're starting to put out some big releases here. You got the Supergirl, which coincides with the movie, because there is a Supergirl movie coming out in the future that is taking inspiration from this Woman of Tomorrow comic story. And it's just interesting how, they could have done this a year ago. They did not. I think the timing of this is just very coincidental. And then not only did we get, a reveal of her coming in this Page Puncher line, there's another Superman figure that has been very requested for a long time now. People have been wanting this version of Superman in figure form from McFarlane for quite some time. And that is... Oh, not that photo. Not that photo. The other photo. Here we go. That is the Kingdom Come Superman. This was a long time coming, and it made sense that it would happen eventually. If many of you remember, I think it was a year or two ago. I think it was in 2023. Yeah, 2023 of March was the most hectic month for DC Multiverse or McFarlane because a lot of figures were coming out that month. It was a non-stop pre-order frenzy. Like, that month for DC Multiverse for me was insane because I was like, there's so many figures dropping in this period. I've never seen this happen before. It was just crazy. But one of those figures was the Kingdom Come Batman. And ever since he made that Kingdom Come Batman figure, a lot of us have been wondering, where's the Superman? And this also leads me to another thing, actually, since we're talking about Superman. Where's his Todd designed Superman figure? I wonder when that's going to happen. Because last time I heard anything about it, I don't know which video or which interview, he said that he's working on it. Don't know if that's true or not. I don't remember where I heard this from. But, he made the Todd designed Batman and Wonder Woman a long time ago. It's very interesting how there's no Superman. So hopefully that still happens this year. But in terms of the Kingdom Come storyline, I'm very happy that we're getting this Kingdom Come Superman. And it looks really, really good. I like the way that it came out. I think they did a pretty good job with the way they captured that face sculpt and everything. And definitely a figure that I have to pick up. And again, they're using that body buck that I love. Like, if you're going to go with any Superman body buck at this point, use this one. Because this one has the better scaling, I guess, when it comes to a Superman figure compared to the original body buck that they kept reusing for a long time. So, there's that. So, yeah, two super characters that I definitely need. Supergirl and Superman right here. So, there's that. Now, let's move on to... What else do we want to move on to? We got 3 things left. All right, let's talk about the figure that I think everybody has been wanting for a while now as well. So for me, the last figure that I need to complete my Justice League shelf, because the Justice League shelf that I'm trying to build is just very much modeled after the original core team from the animated series. Hawkgirl was one of the members. And I'm just glad that we're finally getting Hawkgirl. She is a collector edition figure, as you can see from the side of the box. And yeah, looks pretty good. I hope the wings are well made so they don't, break easily. I hope that they stay on the figure without having to cause any issues where she will fall over. Let's just hope that this turns out to be a very good Hawkgirl figure. This was one character that I've been waiting for such a long time. And I know for a fact that this figure is going to sell out. I have a feeling it will. A lot of these female characters do sell out like crazy. So hopefully when the pre-orders for this happen, I will be ready to go with this one. Because I've been waiting a long time for a Hawkgirl figure. So very exciting right here. And yeah, I like the way that they did the costume. I don't know which version this costume is modeled after, but looks pretty good. And it's definitely reusing, I believe, the Wonder Woman body buck. I don't know if it is or not. The arms kind of look like the same arms from Wonder Woman, so it could be the same body buck. Who knows? Okay, there's that. Pretty cool. Love the way that figure looks. And now, onto the one figure that, I said this in a comment. So, I do write comments sometimes on live streams. I think it was NY Backyard Legends live stream that I watched, I would like to say a few weeks ago. And I remember writing this in the chat where I said, we still haven't gotten a regular Jim Gordon figure. And it surprises me how there's no civilian characters at all in figure form. There's barely any from DC Multiverse on the McFarlane toys. And that's one of the biggest problems that I have as well with McFarlane. Like, look, I say that I love McFarlane's DC Multiverse, but at the same time, there are things that I don't like about it as well. And that is civilian characters. Like the fact that we don't have a Lois Lane, we don't have, other characters that just don't have superpowers, right? Like Alfred! We don't even, we have one version of Alfred now, and that's from the Batman Forever movie, I think, right? With the Batmobile. Even Lucius Fox, we had to wait till he came with the Batmobile, the Tumbler, just to get him, right? Like the fact that they never released a normal civilian character in figure form for like some of these other, characters that are also recognizable who don't have superpowers is really strange. And Jim Gordon being one of those characters. So finally, we have a Jim Gordon figure right here. And I've seen so many people do customs using the John Constantine body buck because it's the best body buck to use for a custom Jim Gordon. And look at what they did. They reused that body buck and put a new head on it and just called it a day, and that's a Jim Gordon figure. You're telling me that you couldn't have done this before? Why did it take this long? Why did it take this long for a Jim Gordon? We finally have a Jim Gordon after like 4 years of this line's existence. Oh my god. This is so funny and ironic at the same time. It's like you could have done this many times before, but they chose to finally release it now, knowing that license is coming to an end. It is crazy. This just makes me wonder who else they're going to release this year, because, if you're gonna lose this license, you gotta end it off with a bang. You gotta end it off with like all the hitters. Like don't stop. Just keep releasing everything that some people have been wanting for a long time. Just throw it all out there, get it out there, give it to us. That's probably what they're going to do, I think, for this year and I guess till next year as well. So there's going to be quite a lot of releases this year. And this is only the start, okay? Like, remember, we're barely in March of 2025. We don't know what else is going to come in the months to follow. So, like, there's probably going to be more reveals each month. I have a feeling. So, finally a Jim Gordon. Why did it take so long? Okay, we got Jim Gordon here. And now, onto this figure. I don't know what this is, okay? I can tell that it's a bat-related character. It's like a bat armor of some kind. It looks really cool. It's reusing the same wings that were on the Hellbat armor, which, those were not bad wings. I don't know what this is. If you know what this is from, share in the comments below. I don't know what type of armor this is. It does look really cool. Definitely a figure that I will pick up just for the sake of the cool armor right here. So there's that. And yeah, I got nothing else to say about that. Well, actually, I do got a few things to say about that. There's a lot of line details on here that could have been done better. My suggestion is, if you have Gundam markers, right? You could probably fill in those lines to add some black lines to it to make those areas pop out. Now, I don't know if this is going to be the final product, of course, because this could just be a prototype. But if this is what the final product looks like and those lines are unpainted, you know what you can do? Gundam markers. Use them. It'll make it pop even more. But outside of that, it is a new sculpt, I think. I don't think any of these are reused parts. I'm not too sure. It looks like a brand new sculpt for a figure, so that is good to see. And yeah, whatever this thing is, do share in the comments below if you know what this crazy bat armor is. I think it looks pretty badass. Definitely a figure that I do want. I don't know if this is going to be a mega figure. Oh, it looks like a mega figure, actually. Hold up. It is definitely bigger than a Jim Gordon. Oh, who knows? Maybe it could be a mega figure. I don't know. It looks pretty cool. And that's all I'm going to say about that. And now, on to the last thing here. This was something that, I had some sort of thought about, where if they were going to give us a new classic Superman with an updated body buck, when would that be? And as I kept saying throughout this video, with how the license is coming to an end, the timing of this couldn't be more perfect. And here we have the next McFarlane Toys digital line figure. It is a classic Superman. And instead of using that same body buck we've seen with the Action Comics 1000 for a long time now, we have an updated version of a classic Superman. And I'm happy that they finally done this. I don't know why it took this long. And recently I did go to Walmart and I did see that Walmart exclusive gold label Superman. And I was thinking about buying it, but then I was like, no, let's not. Because I did see the photos for this guy. And I was like, he's coming. And I know for a fact this one's going to sell out as well. This is going to be a very sought after Superman figure. Because this is a Superman figure that everybody's been wanting. A proper scale size Superman in his classic costume that doesn't look short next to your Batman figure. And you can tell that he's including the same hands that comes with the 1940s cartoon version. So this is probably the one reveal that surprised me the most because, I had a feeling that this was going to happen, but I just didn't know when. And I was like, well, better late than never. So here it is. The final thing. And that is basically all the news for DC Multiverse and just everything related to the 7-inch scale DC figures. There is other stuff that they did show from McFarlane, like other DC stuff that they make, but I don't really cover those. I don't talk about those on my channel. I just really want to focus on the core 7-inch scale figures because that's what I collect the most of. So yeah. And if you found today's video interesting, with how I started with talking about my thoughts about, a different subject before jumping into the second subject, do give this video a like. It really helps out the channel, really helps out the video. And if you want to subscribe to the channel for more action figure related content and whatever else I do on here, do give this channel a subscribe. You don't have to. In the end of the day, I make these videos for fun. And with that said, take care, and I will see you in the next video.